Hi everybody, I'm going to make a video now showing you how to create this card which has been set up to be almost like a decoupage project. Somebody asked me if you can use the Cricut to create things that look like they've been decoupaged, and of course we can. We've got that perfect print then cut feature on it, haven't we? So I started to look at where you'd have to start from to make something like that, and this is the first thing I've ever tried, so it's a little bit basic. I think it could be a lot more complex than this, but this is just a first one, and I think this is probably a good starter for people who've never done anything like this before, like me, just to see what the basic steps are and how you create all the different layers and then how you put them together. After I've done the design space bit, I'm going to try and do an assembly video. I don't usually do those, but I'm going to maybe start doing it for when I just do how-to videos like this rather than my main projects that I sell on Etsy. When it's just something like this, I'll try and do a little quick assembly video. So I'm just showing you some close-ups on it there. The actual, when I show you it in Design Space, I'm going to put even more layers on than I've got here, because I realised when I'd finished it that I could actually have put another 2 layers on, and you'll look at those in the in Design Space in a second, and I think it would have just added even more to that decoupaged look. Right, so let's go to Design Space. I'm going to create the whole thing in Design Space, and obviously you have to have your plan in mind, your basic shape of your card and the images that you're going to use roughly. When it comes to images, I look on Etsy a lot for transparent PNG artworks because they're great to bring into Design Space. They're usually always beautifully high res and bigger than you need them, so you don't need to worry about the quality of print. And odd little things, I might draw the odd shape myself to bring in, but mostly for this I've used free shapes in Design Space, and I've used things I've purchased on Etsy, and just one thing I drew myself. Okay, so we're going to start off by just creating the basic shape of the card, and if we just go back to that image there, I wanted that sort of half moon shape as my basic background, and the other half of the card is that shape too, as you can see in that video. So it's a horizontal card that's hinged at the top. So I also knew that I wanted a slightly straighter piece along the bottom for the wording and the little final layers to go on the front there. So I decided I'd use this shape, this free shape that comes in, and I'm going to rotate it because I want it the other way around. So I'm holding Shift key and just turning it round, and it snaps to at 180 degrees. I want it to be 21 centimeters wide. Right, so I'm just going to make that. I'm going to choose Guide from the Operations menu. I do that a lot when I'm drawing in Design Space because I feel like I can just see a little bit better what I'm doing. So the actual shape I want to end up with is a half moon and then a little rectangle along the bottom. So what I'm going to do, so I can work out where I need to slice this pennant shape, as they call it, is I'm also going to bring in now a circle. I'm going to make that a guide as well. I'm going to make it 21 wide because it needs to be the same as this. I'll just roughly pop it there. And then the next thing I'm going to bring in is a shape I drew myself. It's just a basic snowdrift shape. These are some that I used in my Christmas Village Christmas card, and in a couple of the explosion boxes that I've done since then. So these are just something I've got kicking around. So we'll just ungroup it, and the one I used, get rid of those 3 because the one I used was this shallower one. And again, I want it to be 21 centimeters wide. So if we just click on the circle, I want that crosshair there. I'm going to put that somewhere where I recognise where the centre of it is, and I'm looking where these 2 slightly heavier lines intersect, and I'm putting the cross in the middle of the circle there, just so I know that that is the middle of my circle. And then I'll just select the pennant and the circle again. They won't go far off. We're just going to align them top and centre them horizontally. Right, so now I know that thicker, where those 2 slightly heavier grey lines intersect, is the middle of my circle. and I want this to be more or less to come to the widest part of that circle, so about there. I think I made this a fractionally shallower actually. Yeah, looking at the card I've made, I didn't have it quite so sweeping, so I just squashed that down a little bit. And looking at my card, I think that's roughly where I was. I'm probably not going to match it exactly. Don't often do two things exactly the same, but that's somewhere near. So I'm going to select everything now, and I'm going to just center it all horizontally. Okay, so now we can get rid of the circle, and I want to slice this pennant underneath where that little wavy barrier is, because that's actually the bottom edge of my card. So I'll just zoom out a little bit. I'm going to bring in another shape. Doesn't really matter what I bring in, but I'll bring in a square, ungroup it, and I'm just going to go up there like that, select that and the pennant and slice. I've got my shape on the top and the pennant underneath, so it'll just slice that bottom half of the pennant, and then we just click on all the bits we don't want to get rid of them. Okay, so we've got now the basic shape of the card, which is that. I'm going to copy and paste that, and this piece here can be the back of the card. So I will make that a basic cut, and I'm cutting it out of white card, so I may as well make it white, and we'll talk about the hinge in just a second, but that's the basic shape. Right, so the half moon shape I decided I'd just fill with a blue watercolour sky image, just so it's filled in behind the trees that I'm going to bring in. And I used this swish, which I purchased on Etsy again. I can put all the links in the description below in case you want to use the same things. And all I did was I'm going to send it to the back, Shift, Control and the left hand square bracket. I tend to use keyboard commands a lot. And I'm just going to resize that so it covers the card. I tell you what, we'll get that swish. Hang on, easier just to hide it. I don't want to see that white snowdrifty thing there, so I'm just going to select it in the layers panel and hide it just for a second, and then I can make sure that this blue swish is completely filling the card front shape as I want it to. The blue swish is at the back, the card shape is at the front, so in the layers panel I'm going to select the card shape and the blue artwork, and again I'm going to slice it, and then we can get rid of all the bits we don't want. So there now is the blue background of the card. It's set to print and then cut because it was an image that we brought in anyway, and that's the card back. We'll just ignore that for now. Okay, so I'm going to just bring that swish back in. It's gone to the back. Select both of those just to make sure it's where it's going to end up. Center it side to side, and then aligned it to the bottom. We'll zoom in a little bit now. Okay, so we can start bringing in the images now, and the background against this this sky watercolor blue were the trees. That was the thing I brought in next. So upload, and there's the tree I decided to use in the end. I tried with a few different ones, but I didn't like them as much as this lovely dark blue one, sort of a tealy blue, isn't it? So add it to canvas. I found out the other day that the reason why PNGs come in much bigger than they seem on the outside is because Design Space operates on a standard resolution excuse me, of about 96 dpi, and generally speaking when we're bringing in PNGs they're at 300 dpi, aren't they? So that's why they always come in looking much bigger than we expect them to be. So that looks about right for that one. I'm just going to copy and paste it. And what we can do is, just to create a little bit of difference, we can just flip it horizontally so it's not exactly the same. And then I think that went about there, and I'm just going to shorten it a bit so it doesn't go off the bottom of the card. Then I'll copy and paste that one again, flip it so it's slightly different, or it looks different. It's not really different, is it? But it just looks fractionally different to the one that's behind it. That looks roughly right. Again, just move it up so it's not going off the bottom of the card. Copy and paste that one. I'm going to flip it again so the dots are in a different place. And this one's quite a bit smaller actually, so we'll do it in Pro, and I think that one can go there. That's quite good. I didn't want the peak of the trees to be right in the middle, so it's slightly over to the right hand side. So we'll copy and paste that one and bring them over to this side now. That looks about right. And paste another one, and then that one is much smaller. So pop that about there, I think. And now, because those trees are always going to stay together, I'm going to select all the trees. So in my layers panel, I'm looking 1, hold shift down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to group them. I like them where they are, so I'm going to group them, and then I'm going to select everything for the front of the card, and I'm just going to do that center horizontally again. Right, forget that, I'm going to position them by eye. That's better. Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, so I'm just going to bring that little swish to the front so we can see where it is again. Right, so I'll bring in the characters now. As I said, these are all images that I got from Etsy. They're all 300 DPI, lovely high res, and they come in already transparent, so no need to get rid of any background or anything, and they're beautifully pin sharp. If you're going to make decoupaged cards like this, I really recommend looking on Etsy or other places that sell them for these transparent PNGs that you can get, because quite often you can get 20 images in one bundle for just a couple of pounds, and it's really worth doing. You can create some beautiful images with them. So Santa, bring Santa in first. Again, he comes in way too big because they're lovely high-res images, and Design Space isn't really. So I just want his feet to just tuck a little bit. Well, I want all the feet to be level, but I want his feet to just tuck under there. So that looks about how I had it on my original card. We'll see what he looks like when we bring everybody else in. So don't forget, all I'm doing at the moment is just creating the overall look of the card and the design I want on it. We're not worried about layers just yet. So bring in the little gnome in the stripy hat. Again, I'm going to try and put his feet roughly level with Santa's, maybe not exactly, but that will do. Move him over a little bit. I'm using my arrow keys there just to nudge him over. Now we'll bring in the other gnome. Did I use that one, the green one? Yes, I did. And what I did with this one, because his beard actually swirls in the same way Santa's does, I actually flipped him as well. Just flipped him horizontal, just so it looks a little bit different next to Santa, that's all. And then he's a gnome, so we're going to make him quite a bit smaller. Let's have a look. Yeah, that looks about how I had it on my card. Well, we don't need to worry about it too much, do we? Because we're just looking at the actual method of doing it here. And now we can bring in the reindeer. I really love these Scandi drawings. I'll put the link in the description below. You do need a commercial license for these if you're going to sell things from them, I think. I know I bought it, but a long time ago. I've been using these images now for a couple of years because I used to make boxes and stuff, but I think I did need a commercial license for that. But you'll see when you go on the link anyway. And then that one will have him looking inwards as well, so he needs to be about there. And what I'm going to do with these two reindeer is I'm going to align them at the bottom so that I know the feet are in the right place, and then I'll just nudge them up a little bit. I do want the feet of the one on the left just tuck behind that panel, so the other one, yeah, that looks good. That looks like I had it on the card I've made, roughly. I think we might just make them slightly bigger. No, the little behinds were within the width of the card. We don't really want to go without the width of the card, do we? We want to stay within that 21 centimetres, or I do anyway. So they look, I think they look pretty good. So I'm just going to nudge them, and now we can see where we might need to rearrange the characters in the middle. So I'm going to select the deer. In fact, I'm going to group those two deer now, and then I'm going to select the card, background, and the swish at the bottom, and I'm just going to center those horizontally. Oh, they are pretty much. That's good. Right, let's just bring that back up to the front. There. Am I happy with how they look? Yes, I am. Yeah, so we can see that if we just zoom in a little bit, the deer's nose is just interfering with that gnome a bit too much. So I'm going to select Santa, and I'm using my right arrow key, and I'm just moving him to the right a bit, and then I'm going to do, oops, hit the reindeers then instead. Sorry, I need to center those again. I need that gnome. I'm going to select him in the layers panel. It's easier. Then I'm going to use my right arrow key to just nudge him out of the way. I don't actually want any of these characters, apart from that beard there, that will overlap the deer's legs when the card's finished. But don't worry about that for now. I think that looks good. I'm happy with the position of all those. Right, so on my card, I made this. It stays basic cut, but I will change the colour of it, and I have some card that's somewhere near that gorgeous deep turquoisey blue of the tree. So if I can just come along here to where those colours are roughly, that looks somewhere like, and then, oh, oops, lost it. Where are we? And then I'm just going to, yeah, they're way too green still, so we'll go a bit further towards the blue. That's not far off, is it? That's pretty good colour. We'll go with that one. And then I have a white offset within that, so I'm going to select that, go to offset, and it needs to be a negative offset. And I think looking at this, I did about 3mm, so minus 0.3 centimeters. And we'll do the sharp one. You can't see it there yet, but you will when I apply, and we want that to be white. And then I had the little candle over here, so we'll bring that in as well. It was that image there. Again, there's no difficulty in bringing these into Design Space. They're already transparent. You just keep clicking continue, and they come in beautifully sharp and ready to go. So I had that a little bit bigger than that, I think. We'll see when we get the wording done. So we'll do the wording, and then we'll know how big we can go with that. So I just put Merry Christmas on mine. You can put whatever you like on yours. And when I use these Scandi artworks, I have a favourite font that I use with them. It's a system font, and it's DK Languedoc, this one. I love it. And I just like it because it's slightly rustic and informal, and I just really like it. I think it's a nice font. So make it a little bit smaller. Going to make it a nice bright red. I think probably that candle is a little bit too big. Yeah, that's better, because I want to just open up the spacing on this a little bit. Yeah, I like that better. Right, yeah, so now we've got the size, we'll do the little white offset on that. So again, select that graphic that you brought in, go to offset, and I think I just did, yeah, it looks like a 2mm offset. Apply. It's going to be white, and it's going to be a basic cut. Right, white. There it is. I'll select it in the layers panel. Make it white. Good. So that is the basic design of my card. That's how I want it to look. We're not just thinking about layers at the second. We're just thinking, am I happy with the overall look of it? And yes, I am. I think I might just make that font ever so slightly smaller. Yeah, that's better. A little bit further away from the candles. Okay, so now I've got that, I'm going to select all that, and I'm going to copy and paste it, and I'm going to group it just so that if anything happens, I've got that, and I've got it to refer to as my design as well. I know it's on top of the back at the moment, but don't worry about that. We'll just pop that there out of the way, and now we're going to start actually making our layers. So this is easy because we know that that's just going to be a little print then cut on its own, and that is going to be the basic cut offset that it sticks to. This white swish and the wording is going to be print then cut, so we need to select the wording and the white piece. Can you see that the wording and the white piece are selected in my layers panel, and we need to flatten those. For print then cut, it's got to be flattened. I see so many people asking this question in groups of why they've got fuzzy writing or why it's cutting out every letter, and it's because you haven't flattened it to a piece which is the shape of the actual thing you want to cut. I must see that request in groups 10 times a day, every single day. You think word would get round, wouldn't you? This bit is just going to be a basic cut in a card which at least complements these trees or any other part of your design, really. Just a colour that you'd like to pick out. It could even be the colour of the reindeers, or it could be red, or it could be the green of his hat. Just something that kind of coordinates with your basic design. And just so we can see what we're doing properly, I'm just going to change the colour of the canvas to something. We'll get rid of the grid. Now we can see these white bits that are ready to go. Okay, so I'm also now going to copy and paste this, just so that we keep that up there because we might need to use it again. So the first part, I'm going to get rid of those. The first print then cut thing I want to make is the sky and the trees together. So the first layer, the very back of my card will be the blue arch shape, that pennant shape that we cut down, and the trees. So I need to select the trees and that cut down pennant shape and flatten it. I'll just mention that warning there. It talks about low res. You get that quite a lot in Design Space for files which I know are really easily high res enough, so I tend to ignore that all the time and everything goes fine. Right, so that's my first layer. I'm just going to copy and paste that again, and I'm only doing this so that I don't lose anything that I really wish I'd hung on to. So my second layer is going to be just the trees. So we'll get rid of the people and the sky, and I think they are already grouped, but we need to flatten them because if we didn't, they would still cut as individual trees. So we need to flatten those as well. So that's my very bottom layer, and then I'm going to have a layer with trees. And then if I paste again to bring back a big chunk of artwork, my next layer is going to be the trees and all the characters. So we'll bring that over here, and I need to get rid of the pennant shape at the back, and I need to select all of those and flatten them. They are going to just be one print and cut item, just as they are. And now if we paste again this thing that I copied before, my next layer is just going to be the 5 characters, the 3 gnomes and the reindeer. So we need to get rid of the pennant shape and the trees at the back. And now on my card, in terms of the layers at the back of the little snowdrifty swish shape, that's where I stopped. But I wish I'd kept going, really, because I can see another 2 layers that I could easily make and it would look lovely. So I'm just going to copy and paste that one, and the next layer that I would cut would be just the 3 characters. So the deer would appear to be slightly in the background of the 3 characters now, and then the last layer for at least that all of the card that's behind the snowdrifty shape at the bottom would just be Santa. So if I just zoom out a bit, you can see how the card builds up. just get that out of the way for a second. You've got Santa, and then the 3 behind him, and then all 5 characters, and then all 5 characters on the trees, and then just the trees, and then the background and the trees. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers for that part of the card. And then obviously this is separate. You've got, we'll just zoom in so it's a bit bigger and we're not all squinting. That would obviously go on there like it did in the basic design, and then you'd stick that on there, and then you'd stick that little print then cut on top of that. So I'm going to beetle off and cut this now. Oh no, we need to do the back first. Right, so that was our original artwork. So I'm just going to save this project. I've got it saved a few times because I've had to practice this once or twice. I will call it Decoupaged Santa and Gnomes Half Moon card. Thank you. And I'm just going to hide that group now. It's there, but I just don't want to do anything with it. So we do need that, obviously. We do need that. And we do need those 2. And what we don't need now is that. Because we've got our 6 layers and the little snowdrifty bit on the front and the candles on the front. And now we just need to work out how we're going to attach this to the back. And all I did was, it's obviously the right shape already. We just need to create a bit of a hinge for the very top centre of the card. And all I did was I brought a shape in. Not that one, we don't want rounded corners. I can never find shapes. I don't know why. I've got this mental block. And the height is about right, but it only needs to be about 2.5 centimetres wide. That's about 1 inch for anyone who doesn't work in centimetres. And I'm going to just select both those 2, centre them horizontally. I position that. Can you see the crosshair there? I position that so that that's pretty much halfway. Select both of them, go to your combine menu and weld. So now that's the hinge there. So because it is, we just need to put a little bit of a score line there so it folds down nicely. So again, to the shapes menu, bring in a score line, rotate it, and it needs to be 2.5 wide. That's what the little hinge shape we created was. We'll get that in the right place. I'm just going to position it perfectly with my arrow keys. That looks good. So select that line, select the piece and attach. As I'm sure you all know, got to attach score lines to cut pieces before you hit make it. So we'll do the make it bit, and then if you're not comfortable or you're not really familiar with print then cut, we can see how it goes. So let's just see how big some of these are. Right, the way I've made it, might not be able to make this on A4. Let's see what happens. Yeah. So I always work on A3, which is why I haven't worried about the size of it. So, oh, but that's good that that's happened. So we'll keep doing this on A3 for now. Don't worry if you can't print on A3. I'll show you what you need to do if you can't. So if we look at this first one, you can see that all the individual characters have come out individually, and that's absolutely fine. They don't need to be cut out next to each other because you're going to stick them all on individually anyway. The bits that we did flatten, there they are flattened as they should be. Next, mat. That you can't see it, but that's got the cut shape around it. And then we've got this on the third A3, and then we've got all that wasted space there, and then we've got the other, the back and the little offset for the candles. So I'm just going to show what we can do here, just in case you are like me working on A3. So the one I want to be looking at is that image, which is the characters and the trees. Okay, so I'm just going to hit cancel. Characters and the trees, it's this one. So what I'm going to do now, because you can do basic cut shapes and print then cut shapes on the same mat, and I think that will just work anyway. So I'm just going to zoom in, and if you're not sure about the space you've got in my group, you can download some templates which show you the maximum size of areas available for print then cut. So if I just find mine, and I've got them for A3, A4, tabloid and letter. So if you want to download those, go to the group. Where's it gone? What did I do there? A3. Oh, I didn't hit search, did I? Fool. There it is. So that's the A3 one. Why can I not just do add to canvas? What did I do? What did I do wrong? Oh, view. Sorry, I'm not awake. Yeah, there it is. 10 times. Right, so that area there is the maximum size for print then cut. So we'll just send it to the back. I'm doing Shift Control left hand square bracket there. So you can move this anywhere you want within that yellow shape, and it will cut correctly. So it's just easier when you're positioning things. You can see exactly the space you've got to play with, and it's useful when you're doing labels and things as well. Cannot select the little offset, why not? Let's just stick it over there for now. It fits anyway, as you can see. So then I'm going to get rid of that A3 template, and I'm going to select those, and I'm going to attach them. So now when we hit make it, we should have the same two A3s that we had before, and again, don't worry, we'll sort it out for A4 in a second. Yep, those are that's the one we just made, the attached pieces, and there we've got the others as they should be, and there we've got the little tiny print and cut swish for the front, which you would cut from whatever you've got to use, A4, 12 by 12, whatever you're using. So that's if you're using A3s like I usually do, but I know that lots of people prefer to cut on A4 or letter, so let's just cancel that again. I will detach those because we're probably going to need to do something different now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in now and I think if we do A4, that will also fit for letter. So view all, search for the A4 template. There it is. That's a slightly, I don't know if I'm clicking on something wrong, but that's a slightly different way of that happening, isn't it? But anyway, doesn't matter. Right, so I would imagine that the biggest one is this, because it's got the whole half moon shape and the trees that point right to the top. So let's just see how far off we are that fitting on an A4. So I think we can probably rotate it. Yeah, it's still too big, isn't it? Right, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything on canvas apart from that, and I'm just going to use the corner key to make everything smaller, and that way everything will stay in proportion. I'm just going to bring that over there. It's still too big, so I'm going to do the same thing again. Just take it a little bit smaller. Just make sure that that won't fit better. I'm just trying to... No, it's wider than it's taller. Yeah, so we need it the other way around. Sorry, brain not really working. So is that there yet? Let's just zoom in. You can go right to the edges of it. That will fit. That will now cut from A4. So you can either make yours at size already, get this template on your canvas, and make it the correct size as you go, or you can set it up 21 wide like I did. I mean, obviously you're probably not going to make this design, but that's what you can do. If you end up with a card and you think, oh no, it won't work on A4, just select it all, use the corner handle to reduce it so everything stays in proportion, and then get your biggest piece, which I think will be that one. Bring that to the front. It might not be actually. No, it will. Yeah, that's definitely your biggest piece. The half moon and the trees. It's got to be bigger than that, hasn't it? Yeah. Half moon in the trees. So if that fits on A4 or letter, the rest of it will as well. A4 is narrower than letter, so I'm pretty sure that will fit on letter as well. Right. as I said, I'm going to go away and cut these now, and then I'm going to do my best to get set up for an assembly video just so I can show you how I would put these together. Actually, no, I said I'd go through to print, didn't I? In case you've not seen the print bit before. Right, okay, so we'll get rid of that. Yeah, so hit make it now. Should be able to use A4 for everything now. We can we? I mean, we can, but it hasn't. Oh, there it is. I was just thinking about it. So obviously it's going to use more sheets. That is the back and the little offset for the candles, and then that as well. It's really the print and cut we're worried about, isn't it? But as you can see, if you just take it down a little bit, keep your design within that template for A4, you can use A4 as well. Right, so you've got to this stage. Your mats are all ready to go. As you can see, if I just click on that first one, when you first create a print then cut mat at this stage, you can see that the black registration marks are at the extreme edges of what you can fit on a piece of paper. And the reason it does that is it's in case you want to move things around yourself. So it's sort of giving you that template shape here on the mat. Might not let me leave it there. In case you might decide, you see how that gnome's there? You can, if you want to, move him and put him on another mat. So you can bring him over and put him on this one if you want to. That's why when you get to this stage, your black registration marks are at the extreme corners of what you can do. A lot of people worry about that because they hit make it and then they continue, and then when you actually end up printing something out, the registration marks often squeeze up around the area of the thing that you're actually cutting, so it looks different than it does at that early stage. But anyway, here we are at this window, so we're going to say send to printer. You do need bleed because it's going to cut on all of these edges, and I always use the system dialog and then press print again, and it should bring up a different preferences window. It might look different to the one I'm going to get for your printer, but it will be basically like this, and then you'll have a preferences button or a options or extra settings button. For me it's preferences, and here I can select where I'm going to send the paper from, and with me, if it's thicker paper, it would always be the paper tray at the back, you know, the little single feeder. I am using A4, so that's fine, and here I can set the print quality as well. So for this I would use high. Then you press OK, but it actually won't print until you click print in this window here. So that's how you go right from setting it up in Design Space through to actually sending it to your printer. Will I show you it cutting? I might do. If I can, I might show you it actually cutting, but I don't think you need to, because all that happens is you end up with a sheet that prints out with your image on and the black registration marks, like you can see there, and then you put it through your printer. You just need to make sure that when you, for instance, when you send that mat through, you've put your piece of paper in the correct orientation. So for this particular one, you need the paper on the mat so that the green gnome is at the bottom and your trees are there pointing to the left hand side. That's really important, because the only reference your machine has got is the black registration marks. It doesn't have any second sense of how you've put the paper on the mat. It only works on the registration marks, and it assumes you've put the paper on your mat in exactly the same way as it looks here for everything. So when you're actually putting your paper through, do it one at, I do mine one at once. I don't ever print everything and then cut. I just do it one at once, and then I look at that image and I use that to put my paper on the mat. If you've never done print then cut before with the machine that you're working on, it will ask you to calibrate, but that's not something I've got time to get into on this video. It's a whole separate thing, and there are loads of videos about calibrating your machine on YouTube. Just Google any of them. Right, so I'll stop this bit here. I will go away and cut it, and then we'll come back and assemble it. Right, so I've got all my pieces cut now. Bear with me, I've never done an assembly video before, so I don't know how well or how badly this is going to go. And the only thing I've got to work with is my webcam, so I'm just trying to get a bit more light on there, see if that makes that better. I think it might do. So just to remind you, this is what the finished card looks like. I'm actually going to be putting more layers on the one that we're making now than I did on this first experiment, and it opens up like that. It hinges there in the middle, and then it just stands up like that. Right, so this is the very first piece you start with. This is the background of the whole card, and I'm just going to quickly run through what the layers are before we get to sticking them down. This is the next layer, which is the trees and the characters printed on top of the trees. Then you would use these pieces here, which are all 5 characters printed out separately, and then you would have 3 characters, just the Santa and the gnomes. They will go on there like that, and then the final layer for the most of the card is Santa Claus, and he goes on there like that. And then finally we would have this snowdrift, swish, whatever you want to call it, on the bottom, and the offset panel on top of that with the greeting, and then the little candle on the offset will go on there to finish, and then we'll join the back on, but that's the simplest part really. Okay, so we'll go through, we'll just take those off again, and you don't really need to see me stick, I don't think, sticky pads and sticky strips on every piece of this card, so I'll just show you it on one of them. If you've done decoupage before, I'm sure you know all about it already, more than me probably. But so what I used is a mixture of these things. So they're about 5mm, I think, little sticky pads, and basically you just push them out, stick it on, and then that little back cover there peels off. It won't do it because that's slippy and shiny, but I'll show you in a minute. And then these are just very narrow strips of the same stuff, and you just peel those off like that, and then you peel that backing off like you would on double-sided tape or something like that. So just different shapes really that make it easy when you're doing all these little tiny pieces that need some stickiness. Okay, so if I just, yeah, I'm only going to show you the tape on this one piece. Where does he go? I think he's with that up there. Okay, so for Santa, it's a good one to show you actually, because as you see, Santa's got some really tiny bits and then some long stretches. So what I did for Santa was, I'll use that one I picked off there. I stuck a round one on the bauble of his hat, and then for the main parts of his body, in fact I haven't got my specs on, let me just put my specs on and then I can see what I'm doing properly. Just start that, run it where it goes, and what I do, all you need to do to trim it, or all I do to trim it anyway, is I just pop the paper, cut through the paper, and then the foam peels off quite easily. You could also just, on your actual strip, cut a length that you think might work, and then just peel that off, stick that on. I'll use these other shorter bits here. I mean, that's probably fine, but I do tend to go for overkill with these. I am relatively new to this craft, so people who do it all the time are probably looking at me and wincing that I'm wasting more than I need to. And then for these tiny little bits here, I literally just pop a bit off the end of there, and then, because I'm a little bit ham-fisted, I tend to take it off with my tweezers then, weeding tweezers, and pop it on there and just press it down. And I'm going to put a bit there then, just because these tiny delicate parts, I think they do need a bit of support, or they might get torn away if your card goes through the water bit. But I think that one will do. And so then when you actually came to stick that on, you just pick the plastic off and stick it in place. But as I say, you don't need to see me stick sticky pads all over these and then peel them all, because it's a little bit time consuming, and then stick them back on. So what I'll do is I'll try and edit this video to just show you the relevant pieces. Okay, so we're back, starting with the very bottom layer of the card, and the next piece that goes on is this piece that has the characters printed on top of the trees. So I'm not going to show you this for everyone, but again, because my nails are short and I'm a little bit it's hard to pick this off sometimes, I tend to grab it with my tweezers and just peel it off like that. The tabs are actually easier than the little sticky pads. I find those easier to peel than this tape. If anybody's got a better tip of how to do this, then by all means put it in the comments and I will take it on board. Right, so that's all the backing peeled off that tape now. You'll notice I haven't put anything on the antlers of the deer because I know that they're going to stick off the ends, the sides of the project. So all you do is very carefully, you can line it up with the line of the trees and with the tree trunks, and of course with the cut points of the trees. So you're just going to basically get yourself to a point where you can see things properly, line it up, drop it into place, and very gently pat it down. So that's the first layer done. You can just see this tape and these pads I'm using are about 2mm. What would that be? About a 1/12 of an inch, I think, that, whatever that is in decimals. I don't know what it would be. Gosh, I don't know. 0.0, no idea. No idea. About a 1/12 of an inch though, 2mm. So that's that one. So next we would have all the 5 individual characters. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep those now. Right, so I've prepped all the pieces now, the 5 characters that will stick onto here. I've used mostly the strips on these. I don't like them as much as the tabs, as it turns out. The tabs are way more substantial and easier to peel than the strips are. So what I did, you can't see it on these, but what I did on some other parts was, when I had a really tiny part to do there, what I did was I just got my scalpel, and you can see there's a piece of it left there. I actually just sliced one of these in half, so if it was on the antlers or on a tiny arm or leg, and then I just use that, and then I stick it on, and they're just so much easier to peel. So I'll use up these strips that I've bought, but in future I think I might stick to tabs like this. Much easier to use. Okay, so they're all the tape is on, it's all been peeled, so now I can just go ahead and stick these in position. Just make sure all the tiny bits are in the right orientation. And again, it's just a case of getting over the image as well as you can. I don't want to block the camera with my head. So that it more or less lines up. Well, you want it to line up as well as it possibly can, really, to get that decoupaged effect. I'll just move that up a bit. That don't look too bad, does it? And then just gently pat into place. Now we'll bring the other gnome down, and I may as well show this. It's going to be pretty quick. I'm going to line his feet up first, and then the bottom of his coat, and then his hat, and then the one on the other side. Yes, I think I will. As you can see, the beard sort of flows around the legs, so for this layer I think I'll probably put the beard underneath, but we'll see how it works out. So again, I'm just lining up his coat and his hat, and then if you get nice and accurate at the bottom, everything will be in the right place elsewhere. And then this reindeer flips and goes over here, so just turn him around the right way, Yes, so for these reindeers, because they're going on top of the other reindeers, they do need. Do you remember I talked about how for this second layer we didn't put any. Oh, stray bit of tape there. We didn't put any adhesive here because these do stand off the side of the card. But once you come to the next layers, then obviously these antlers need to stick to these antlers here, so they do need little bits of sticky on. Again, just twist it round. That looks pretty good, I think. Gently pat it down. Yeah, that looks good. So that's that layer done, and now we would be on to the one that's just Santa and the three figures, so I'll go ahead and prep those now. Okay, so they're all ready now, and I've used a mixture of tabs and strips on these. So I'll go ahead and align this next layer in exactly the same way, lining up his little feet and his coat, and then just gently patting it into place. Same with Santa, all the tape and the tabs are peeled and ready to stick on. Just want to make sure. A bit tricky with these tiny bits, but yeah, that looks good. Ooh, I think he should have had something under his foot there. I might just see if I can do it without spoiling anything. It's whether or not I can get that on there without creasing the leg. I don't want to do that. Let's try doing it that way. Yeah, that works. Of course, I've got to peel it now. Hang on. It's a devil to peel, is this strip. I don't know whether I bought cheap ones or something. Maybe if you've got a link to some slightly firmer. It's because the actual foam is so spongy. It's hard to grab the backing tape. You know what? I don't know whether I'm going to live with that, because at least it'll support it, even if it won't. I just can't get to it. I'm going to end up. Oh no! Will it matter? It won't matter if I crease his leg, will it? It's not going to show. No, that's okay. There, that's better. That just supports that a bit better. Yeah, you can't tell I'm new to this, can you? Right, and then we'll do this one. And of course, his beard now is going to go over the legs of the deer, which will look quite nice. Match up the coat. Yep, that looks lovely. Very chuffed with that. And then here's the final Santa, ready to go on. I may as well just go ahead and remove the tape and whatnot. That wasn't too bad, that bit there, you see. And there. Those are going to be tricky on his little hand and bell. Can you see what I mean by it's so stretchy and springy? It's really hard to, goodness me, get hold of it. The foam circles are really quite tough, quite solid. I guess this is like this in case you want to use it for more flexible projects, isn't it? Yeah, probably. There we go. Oh, look, I'm nearly bent his little bell. Alright, let's see if we can get those off without damaging anything. There. Might do better with some square-ended tweezers, maybe. There we go. Okay, so we'll just get him in place now. Bring him down a bit so I can see what I'm doing. Match his feet. Match the little bell and the pom-pom on his hat. And then hopefully everything else will be in place. So now if I lift that up, you can see we've got those nice layers going on and the images are still behind them, so it doesn't look very gappy. Right, so now we're going to come to these bits. So the way to assemble these is it goes on, does it go on that way? Yeah, it goes on that way. This needs to stick onto here, and then I've already put the offset on the back of the little candle just with using one layer of round tabs, and that's going to stick on there. So I'll just prep those pieces now, and then we'll talk about how you get around the fact that there are big differences in height now on here, because on Santa we've got, for instance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total layers, including the very bottom and the top of him, whereas when we're sticking it on this corner we've just got one. So we'll talk about how I'm going to handle that. Not sure if there's a better way, but I'll show you how I do it. Right, so I've prepped this very front piece now, and something I have discovered as I was using that tape, you remember I was saying it's so spongy, and I thought perhaps it was so you could mould it, and it did. I've managed to make it just bend to follow the shape of this swish, which is quite nice. I haven't had to cut it at all, so at least that will look nice. If you can see behind it, that'll look quite good. Right, so we'll just peel that off. It's very sticky. It really is. The adhesive is very strong in its favour, so the bendiness and the stickiness of it is definitely a pro. The difficulty of peeling it is a bit of a con, but I guess you get used to it. I just haven't used it much really. Okay, tiny little bit there that's not peeled. There we go. Oh, big bit there. Goodness me. Right, yeah, that's everything done. So this is relatively easy. You're just going to position it so that you've got an even margin all the way around, and as you've cut it, you know what margin you left. So I think I did about 2 mil. So I'm just looking at this edge, and I think if I get an even margin here, it'll be okay everywhere else. So I'm just going to lay that down, make it straight as possible, and yes, that looks good. And so I'm going to get this on the main card before I stick the candle on, because I might need to know what I need to put behind there. Although I must say, now that that's on 300-gram offset, it's actually pretty strong anyway. You might not need to put anything behind the candle flame. Okay, so this is going to go on here, and it does go all the way over the highest part of the card, which is Santa. And as we said, that's let's check again. It's 1, 2, 3. It's 4 pads. 4 pads. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4 pads. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pads, 4 layers thick there. So I'm probably not going to put anything where he actually touches Santa, but where he touches these two, I might need to turn it round so I can just sort of look underneath it a bit. Yeah, I'm probably going to put, so these two are 1 layer down, 1 layer of card and one tab down. So I think what I might do, there might be a better way of doing this. As I say, I'm not experienced in doing these at all. I think it does only just go over though, doesn't it? I was thinking I'd put something there, but I think I might come a cropper if I do. Let me just have a think what the best way to do it is. It's a bit difficult. It was easier with this one because there weren't as many layers to take into account, but now I've got that extra deep layer there. I need to think. So obviously along the bottom I'm going to need 4 pads. So, and I'm going to use pads, I think, rather than strips. So I'm going to need 4 piled up. So I'll just do 1 while the video's on, and then I'll do all the rest while you're not watching. So I've put 1 on, I've peeled it. I'm going to put another one on top of there and peel that, And I think doing this part with the tabs is definitely a better idea. And I know you can get thicker tape as well, so it might be an idea to use it where it's not going to be seen. So that's 3 I've got in a little column there now, and I need 1 more. Let me just lay that on. I haven't taken the sticky off that yet. But yeah, that's nice. That's going to be a correct height. So what I'm going to do, because I know the reindeer's legs get well covered up, I'm going to put some tabs there on him, and there are just 2 there, so I'm going to put 2 on his feet, like this. So 1 down, give it a good old press down, peel it, and then put another 1 down. And I don't want the sticky off that yet, because I want to be able to just lay this down and see where it's going to be supported. Stand it up, have a look there. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. Yes, it will. It'll be okay. 2 there. So on his feet, I'm going to put 1. These tabs are so easy to peel that they're bad in the opposite way, because the little covering comes off when you don't really want it to. I'm going to put 1 on each foot there. Yep, that's good. Don't forget, I'm going to put a column of these all along the bottom, and I'm not peeling them because I just want to see how this thing is going to be supported at the bottom. So again, just level it up. Yep, can't really, I'm trying to show you. Can you see how you've got 4 on the bottom edge, 2 on the deer's feet, 1 on the little green cap gnome's feet, and you can see that you've got quite a good level support layer there. So we don't need anything on Santa. He's just going to lift it up even more than it is already. He'll do. So all these, that 1, could do with getting 1 on the very corner of his coat, but I'm not sure it will be in the right place. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to put it here, just next to him, and that's 1. I'm sorry if this is a bit long-winded. I'll get better at it. And then I think we need another, don't we? Yeah. Peel that, sorry. Need that not to be. Yes, because it's as if it was going to go on the corner of him, and it's not doing. So again, just bring this in, and I'm sort of standing up and then peeping behind it to see where the support is going to be, and I'll show it. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, it's going to be on, keep that on that corner. Yes, that's good. Then we'd have another 4 there, and I think that will do actually. I don't think we need any more. So I'm just going to go off, and I'll put these on while you're not watching. Right, so I've got the dots applied to this now, and you can see that at the bottom there's these little columns, and then I've tried to make all the other levels of dots so that it's going to give the same support. And I can't put anything on his feet because it doesn't go that deep. So I'm just going to try and put this on now and really hope this works. Very sticky, these tabs, so you don't get much chance to get it wrong or right. That feels good. That feels like it's got fairly even support everywhere. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. That's what it looks like from the bottom. I wonder if you can get thicker tape. I mean, nobody's going to lift your card up and look at the bottom of it either, but yeah, it might be nice if if it could look a bit more solid at the sides. If you know anything about that, I'd really love to know, so put it in the comments and help me out. As I say, I am new to doing this. That's there on that reindeer. I think if I did it again, I might put something there as well, but that's going to stay in place for sure. Right, so all that's left to do now is to put this on, and as I said, I've already, the light's coming in through the window now, making it harder to see. I've already put the offset on the back. I just used those little pads that we've talked about before. So you could either just stick that with glue straight onto there, but I think I'm going to use pads, get a bit more dimension into it. So again, this is nice. Don't think we need one there. No, I don't think we do. It'll stand proud a bit, that one. So we'll just stick it on the bits that we know for sure are going to actually, yeah, can you see? That wouldn't have needed one there at all. Right, so peel those off. And I think about there. Give that a good pat on. And that's the front of the card all finished. I really like that. I'm going to try and make some more of these with different scenes perhaps. Okay, so we need to put the back on now. So you can either choose, I've used a hammered card here, you can either choose a smooth back or a hammered one, whichever you like. I like the hammered finish, so I'm going to have that as my inside. So we need to put glue, I think, on here. So if I get so we'll get our glue. Yeah, it's too bright now, isn't it? That's frustrating. Sorry about that. This is the first video I've ever done. I don't normally do assembly videos at all. So, spread it out a bit. And then, for ease, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand it up against the back of the card so that I can line the curves of the card up properly. Then I'm going to lay it down and I'm just going to press that into place and let it catch before I do anything else. Just for a little bit longer. And then I'll gently open it up and apply a bit of pressure just to the tab. So there we are. That's the card finished. Open it up, write your greeting inside. You could even, if you wanted, do something print and cut there, couldn't you? You could put a proper verse in or a bit of decoration, or even have some more of these images on the inside. That might look quite nice. Okay, if you've watched this right to the end, thank you very much for bearing with me through my first ever assembly video. I hope they'll get better. So the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that I missed this layer out. This should have gone as the third layer, I think, or the second. No, the second. So it should have been on the very back of the card. I'm gutted that I missed it, and there's no way I can disassemble all this now to put it in. So take that lesson from me. Count your pieces before you start assembling. I'll save that for the next one.